So I came across this TikTok, and it is the greatest thing on the face of the planet because it's not what you expect. Before we click play, it's POV. You're at your first Midwest wedding, and this is the quote send-off. Now, I don't know what kind of where in the Midwest this is. I don't. This is not a thing. If you look at the comments, it's people from every state going, this is definitely not in Wisconsin. This is definitely not Nebraska. This is definitely not Oklahoma. So like, I don't know where this is at.
Okay.
But it is hilarious.
Okay.
So here you go.
Sing us a song, you're the piano man. Sing us a song tonight.
What?
If you are listening to this, it is every man at this wedding party with his pants around his ankle.
And then all of the men in the background also with their...
Yes, it is apparently a send-off where you just drop your pants and you dance.
I was at my nephew's wedding this past Saturday, and that was not observed. That was not a thing that we did. So interesting.
Yeah.
I'm
Here's what's
your
funny.
Significant other is glad that the
that is
over.
not a thing. The wedding's over. That's not a thing. But here's what's funny is I doubt they still do this, but at South High, in the theater department, when you're done with a show after striking everything and it's like midnight, you're all loopy, you have a bunch of high schoolers, we would all strip down to our underwear and run through. Yes, this was a thing. This was a tradition. The dudes would be in their boxers and girls would be in sports bras and shorts.
Something tells me this doesn't.
This probably does not happen anymore. I'd be very surprised. But we would run through the arts wing and do laps around the arts wing. And then that was our when you knew stuff was over.
Things were a little different across town at Central. Yeah, I definitely don't remember anything like that happening.
that was a thing.
Well, now I've learned a lot more about South. So.
And about somewhere in the Midwest that just drops their pants and dances.
Yeah. I mean, why not?
Why not? The best part is if you look close enough, they had custom boxers with either the bride or the groom's face on them with little hearts.
That is so much commitment.
That's a lot of commitment.
Wow.
I will say, for my friend Rachel, who's getting married in a couple weeks, we got her a muumuu with her husband, soon to be husband's face all over it with little hearts too. So it didn't come in time for the bachelorette party, so I'm just going to give it to her as a wedding present. It's great.
My wedding present I give all new couples getting married is a copy of the game Sushi Go. You know this because I gave you a copy of the game Sushi Go.
You did give us a copy of Sushi Go.
And if you got it too, it's just what I do. It's a good game. You should check it out.
Good game.
Welcome to Ask a Kansan, a podcast connecting, amplifying, and uncovering Kansas.
And I'm Sydney.
And I'm Gus.
So today we have a great guest on. It is Rachel Stroer. She's the president of the Land Institute. If you don't know what the Land Institute is, it is a nonprofit actually here in Salina, but they do a lot of amazing things globally, which is amazing. A lot of people even in Salina don't know what the Land Institute is.
Their focuses are on like some of the biggest things humanity faces. Yeah. So it's an honor to have her on the podcast today. Mm-hmm. She was recently in New York. She talks about that a little bit. And she's the kind of person that gets quoted in the Wall Street Journal and in Washington Post. Like she's an important person in Kansas that more Kansans need to know. Hence the reason why she's on Ask a Kansan.
So without any further ado, here is our conversation with Rachel. For our audience, can you introduce yourself for us?
Sure. I'm Rachel Stroer. I am the president of the Land Institute here in Salina, and I was born and raised here. So excited to be representing a Kansan today myself.
Well, perfect. And you're in Leawood now? right?
I do. I live in Leawood.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Give us kind of your background, kind of what led you to the Land Institute.
I'll try to keep it as short as possible. So I grew up in Salina, grew up definitely with an environmental ethic. My father was a landowner and sort of conservationist. And so I spent a lot of time as a child helping recreate a prairie on the land that he had purchased just north of town outside of Minneapolis, Kansas. And so I kind of had this ethic. I went away to college in New York City. I did that for 6 or 7 years. Had a short stop at a Master's of Fine Arts program. I was a dancer growing up and interested in the arts. And so I took a minute to consider an MFA, quickly decided that wasn't for me, and then turned into sort of sustainability, environmental stuff as the line of thinking that and sort of trajectory I wanted to take my career on. Ended up in Kansas City working for a sustainable architecture firm called BNIM. And my mentor there, Bob Berkebile, was part of the same sort of sustainability, beginnings of sustainability in the 70s with Wes Jackson, the co-founder of the Land Institute. And so they knew each other well, had the opportunity to kind of touch base with Wes in my work with Bob and the architecture firm. Got my MBA, did other things, and ultimately had a kid and did the thing that you do when you have a kid. You move home because it's hard and you need help. And so there's a built-in community to help with that little family, and moved here and wasn't sure what I was going to do, but knew that I wanted to do something big. And I felt like a lot of the work I had done in sustainability it was very grassroots, kind of community redevelopment type stuff. And there was this much bigger problem that felt like it couldn't be solved at that scale. And what I liked about and was attracted to at the Land Institute was the fact that the solution is this sort of radical transformational thing of really fixing the root, pun intended, of the problem of agriculture by bringing this natural ecosystem kind of perspective back to our food producing system. So that's why I ended up at the Land Institute. Wes and Tim Cruz hired me to help bring on a new project, sort of institutionalize a new project in 2015. And it's been great. It's been wonderful.
For maybe audience members who have never heard of the Land Institute, can you kind of give them the spiel?
So my soundbite is always that the Land Institute is giving humanity a chance of sustaining ourselves on this planet for the long-term future. So agriculture has been in the making for the last 10 or 12,000 years. We would like it to sustain our species for the next 10 or 12,000 years. And right now it's not on that trajectory. And the way that we've approached that problem is to look to nature and say, well, how did nature sustain human life and other life for hundreds of thousands of years before agriculture? And when you look at nature, you see that it features mostly perennial plants growing in diverse mixtures. And when you look at our agriculture, it features mostly annual plants that die or can't produce a fruit for more than 1 year, and mostly grown in monoculture. So we know it in Kansas, vast swaths of wheat, or I saw some milo this morning, for acres and acres and acres of the same thing. So you have this contrast between what nature did to build the soils that we eat from and what our current agriculture system does. So the perennial polyculture or diverse perennial agroecosystem of nature versus the annual monoculture system of our current agriculture. And what the Land Institute is trying to do is convert this into a nature-based system that is perennial and diverse, so that the way that we feed ourselves can actually rebuild soil and steward resources and not be an end game for supporting our species as it is today. So
the Land Institute is technically a nonprofit, but can you speak to how big of a community the Land Institute is? Like, you're here in Salina, but you guys have grown into other, I think, countries, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
So can you speak to a little bit about that?
So the Land Institute is getting ready to celebrate our 50th anniversary in 2026, and is, over that course of time, has spent most of that time really focused here in Saline County in the Midwest, trying to develop these perennial grain crops. And in the last probably 10 or 15 years, there has been a lot more success in that endeavor and a lot more attention globally on this idea of perennial grain crops and ecologically intensified cropping systems as a possibility. And so scientists started calling and we started answering. And just this last March, we had a convening of our partners from all over the globe. It was in Mexico, co-hosted by the Land Institute and a global crop center called CIMMYT, which is an acronym for words that I don't know because it's in a different language. And we had a total of 95 researchers at that meeting from 25 countries and from 40 plus different institutions. Many of them were from the Land Institute, but also from all those other representative groups. And that wasn't even the full breadth of the researchers that we work for. So we don't employ those people, but we collaborate with them and they contribute their expertise and time to the work of developing these perennial grain crops.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
There's a quote that we often hear based on who we work with here in Salina, attributed to Wes, where he says, if you're not planting things that please.
If you're, I think I know what it is. It is, if your life's work can be accomplished in your lifetime, you're not thinking big enough.
That's such a kind of heavy thing to hear. And I think for most people that aren't working in a field like the one you work in, I mean, like us, we make videos, and we like to see our videos completed in our lifetime. So,
yeah, very much true.
So what is it like? How do you keep energy as an organization with such a lofty goal?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's, and I work with these scientists who have committed their life's work, their entire career to one species, and they won't likely finish. And they do it anyway. And there's something really beautiful about the continuity and sort of patience of that. I think it also helps that we have had successes. So there have been sort of milestones for a long time. We were trying to prove this genetic biological thing could happen where you could have high yielding, robustly perennial. You could have big seeds and deep roots at the same time. We think now all evidence is pointing to, yes, you can do that. So there are these kind of, there are milestones that get met in your lifetime. The goal is big enough. I mean, we're talking about 2.7 billion acres of global grain agriculture that I
can't even wrap my head around that.
Right. And the idea is that as much as possible of that, a majority of that be transitioned over the next 100 years into systems that feed people and function like a natural ecosystem. But it all happens in baby steps.
Yeah.
So you get to celebrate, the podcast level achievements. But then, when you look back over the course of your career, you might say, oh, look at this canon of work we created.
Kansas Wesleyan is proud to be the educational crossroads of North Central Kansas. As a partner of Ask a Kansan, we share the desire to build our communities and to discover what makes our region special. Learn more about the power of and at kwu.edu.
With your leadership, and you've been there for probably 10 plus years, right? Are there strategic shifts that you implemented as a leader to try to help get to those goals? And like, were they successful? What did you learn from them?
So I've been at the organization for 11 years, or almost 11 years, and have been president for 4, maybe. And what we have, the sort of change that's happened within the organization has been a change to this more collaborative and even proactively collaborative approach. Whereas before some of the genetic milestones were achieved and some of the preliminary sort of beta crops were created, like Kernza, which you've probably heard of, before those successes had happened, we were sort of heads down, proving this here in Salina, trying to get the geneticists to work on it, get the plant breeders to convince these crops to be perennial and high yielding or higher yielding crop-like characteristics. And now we still need to sort of continue doing that. But now that we know it's a viable thing, we now need to build up the skill to help support those 95 or 200 plus researchers all over the globe who want to get involved. We have to even more sort of create the foundational innovations and prototypes that we then share with those people, and then enables them to carry the work forward in their regions and in their places. And so I think that's been the biggest change, has been acting and functioning and really living into this idea that we are hosting a collective rather than heads down proving a possibility.
So at Feely, we've had a really great opportunity to do a couple of different videos, vastly different from different parts of the Land Institute. One of them being kind of an outreach, almost kind of learning opportunities for high schoolers was the most current one. Can you tell me a little bit more about like how you're educating people who have zero idea? Like what's the goal behind it? What's your team actively doing? Anything along those lines?
Yeah, quite a bit. I mean, creating educational content and modules that can be shared with high school teachers or other educators to help just incorporate this idea of perenniality into our understanding of agriculture. And it oftentimes requires teaching people first about agriculture, because I think we're more in touch with agriculture in Kansas and in Salina than in some. I mean, we just were in New York City a couple weeks ago for New York Climate Week, which is one of the ways we educate people about this work. But in a city, people are far more disconnected from where their food comes from. And given our global food system, so much of our food doesn't come from next door. Even if we're growing it, it doesn't come from next door. So, we think about that, and we play a role in educating, I think, just the public about what agriculture is, what its sort of resilience or lack thereof under current practices, and what the opportunities are to get beyond. We have especially focused, in fact, one of the themes in our international meeting last March was this idea of early career researchers being a really important thing that the Land Institute has actually developed for a very long time, for probably the last 30 or 40 years. There was an internship program when the organization started. There was then a fellows program and a graduate fellows program, a short course where we had the scientists teaching, up and coming geneticists and plant breeders about this concept of perenniality. And many of those people who were engaged in the Land Institute graduate fellows program are now working in perennial grain development in their professional lives. So there is this kind of training the future scientist or inspiring even the future scientist who will be engaged in creating this new agriculture, but then also creating the communities of people from grade school to and up to understand that there's a different way, and a way to be more in touch with nature and ourselves as a species and the food that we eat.
Can you talk a little bit about your internship program? Because I feel like it's a hidden gem that a lot of people don't know about.
Our internship program has evolved in the last few years. We now hire, it's not called an internship program anymore, but we do hire every summer research assistants. And this is a cohort of anywhere from 10 to 15 people. They come in kind of two shifts over the course of the summer. So from the spring to the fall, and help with field work and participate in lecture series, and are really key to making sure that all of the data is gathered from the field in a high quality way, and then often even helping analyze into the fall and winter. So that is an opportunity. There are some high school aged folks, but then also a lot of undergrad, a couple of people who have maybe graduated from undergrad and are trying to figure out what's next, but they come and sometimes they come back a second year. We have some that are exchanges with colleges that we have relationships with. Cool. So yeah, it's a great group of people. I love it that we get like new energy into the organization every summer. They typically come. There are quite a few regionally who come and come back, and there are also people from all over the world sometimes who come to take those positions. Wow.
One of our previous guests was James Bowden, who used to work at the Land Institute. I don't know how previous,
because Carl was on
that's
too.
True.
Both the Bowden brothers.
I don't know how James first got involved, but one of the topics that we talked with James about, he's a rancher and a farmer. You know, I guess I've experienced kind of you're kind of on the bleeding front edge of agriculture, and there's a huge bulk of agriculture, obviously, that's heavily industrialized, and these two sides kind of see each other. I guess I'm not part of either side, and so I imagine that there's tension between you guys. James said that at least for him there wasn't. You know, for him that you are united and aligned. Yeah. I guess just could you speak to that? Like, do you feel tension with the there's probably a lot of people listening that are by our terms industrial farmers today. Yeah. You know, should they feel threatened by the work that you do?
I don't think any farmer should or often does feel threatened by our work. I think farmers want to steward their land. Their land is their biggest asset. And what's available to them to produce and farm today destroys that. And so if you say, well, I can give you something potentially in 20 years that can, that's perennial, it comes back every year. It means that you till less, you put on far fewer chemicals, if any, which is also less expense, use less diesel. You can go out of town, and it's going to still be there when you get back. And ideally, ultimately, it has a market and it has all these other benefits. Then they usually, my experience has been, they raise their hand at the end of the Q&A of a presentation and they say, when can I have that again? I think that it relinquishes the farmer from the economic, labor-intensive treadmill of annual monoculture at agriculture. And so I see a lot of alignment. Now, I think that there's, not every Kernza farmer is happy about growing Kernza because it's hard and it's different and you have to learn new things and it doesn't yield as much as it will in 20 years. And so the economics aren't there yet completely. And so there's a lot of variables about who can be successful and who, parameters, things that need to be true in order for somebody to be growing one of these beta perennial crops like Kernza. But ultimately, the story and the plan is to have high yields, robust perenniality, rebuild or build soil, and solve a lot of the problems in annual agriculture that we currently do gymnastics around and or supplement with chemicals and other inputs.
This episode is sponsored by Renaissance Cafe. Serving Northern Italian cuisine prepared with a fresh, contemporary influence, the Renaissance Cafe is one of Kansas's favorite restaurants. Whether you're planning a romantic dinner date, a family celebration, or an intimate meal with friends, the Renaissance provides a unique dining experience with an old-world atmosphere. Open Thursday through Saturday evenings, the Renaissance Cafe is located just south of Salina in Assyria, Kansas. Visit renaissancecafeassyria.com to book your reservation today.
This was kind of an out there one, but are there any specific policy changes at a national or a global level that would help accelerate what you guys are doing?
The first thing I would mention is that the government does provide some funding for research. Mm-hmm. I mean, the government is infamous for being behind, NASA and these sort of the internet, these sort of things that were funded through R&D programs at the federal level. So there's definitely an opportunity for the USDA and other federal programs to incentivize and or support perennial grain research and development. There has been some of it. It's sort of scratching the edges, but it's not nearly as full as the way that they fund more mature technologies. So that's an opportunity. And then in terms of these beta crops like Kernza, there are also policy levers that make it easier for farmers to grow it, that help it sort of get onto the landscape. I'm not an expert on those things, but it's, getting into a checkoff, getting Kernza listed in the checkoff program, getting it into the EQIP program, or getting crop insurance sort of mandates and policies for Kernza production. These kinds of things where it's Kernza for a farmer and Kernza for the banker who supports the farmer is a high risk, unknown thing where they can look at the price of wheat and corn and soy and milo over the course of a decade and make risk assumptions. There is none of that for Kernza. So getting some of those support networks set up can be a policy change initiative. And we have had some of that for Kernza successfully. So gotten it listed in various things that make it a little bit easier to grow.
I'm going to go off script here a little bit. One of the things that we've noticed while working with Land Institute is you guys have a company culture that's pretty amazing. At least from the outside, it looks like that. I don't know. That all of your employees seem to just have this insane passion for what you guys are doing. Is that something you intentionally hire for? Has that come naturally?
I think people come to the work with it largely. They probably feel it when they interview. Like they come to interview and they're like, oh, something's happening here. I want to be part of that. I don't think it's probably somewhat a requirement, but we also do other recruiting and we pay people. And they make a living working at the Land Institute, and they get great benefits. And the culture is sort of like a bonus, maybe. So I think it's always been somewhat like that, and I hope that we've made it an even better place. I saw this meme poster thing just today, and I'm going to butcher it, but it said something like, build such a rock solid team that no one knows who the leader is.
Oh,
that's good.
That's
and
a good
I feel
one.
like we're really close to having achieved that. I think there's a lot of leaders at the Land Institute, and my goal, certainly in my leadership style, is to build that team and then empower them, and so that if I'm gone, it doesn't matter. To sort of make myself expendable in some ways. So I think I just spent the morning with our director and executive teams, and they're all pretty amazing, solid people. So
that's awesome. You guys just went through not necessarily rebranding, but a refreshment.
Yeah.
Can you talk about kind of what that process was? Because it's a very different vibe and very colorful and very something you probably wouldn't expect. Land Institute, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So we spent 2.5 maybe years working. We just launched a communications program 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, and hired Tammy Kimbler, who had been sort of a Kernza evangelist within General Mills.
That's awesome.
She came and worked with us at the Land Institute and runs our communications. And so she was sort of the lead. So she's the person that you should be asking this question of. But I will tell you that there's the sort of title of the one we chose, of the option we chose, was called Flourish. And it is very much, I think, intended to transition our brand and organization towards what I think we have been achieving, which is to be more accessible to a broader audience. And so that's that. And you see these sort of patterns. All of the staff have these beautiful colors behind their heads. It's really focused on sort of personal storytelling, this sort of pattern language with the colors, and this idea of sort of this flourishing future under perennial agriculture, but also this inclusive process of getting there.
I have a question that you can feel free to say you don't want to answer, and we'll edit it out.
I think you asked me, are there any topics you don't want to address? And I was like, no, I can handle it all.
I can imagine that it was challenging. I'm not saying this because I think it was challenging for you personally. Just it is challenging to take over for a founder, to be the second leader of an organization.
Well, I had a hedge.
Okay.
So I didn't have to take over after the founder.
Gotcha.
So Wes retired from being president in 2016, and I was COO at the time. And the board hired Fred Utze to be president.
That's right.
Fred was president for 4 years before I became president, before he left and I became president. So Fred did all the hard work, and then I just get the honeymoon.
Gotcha.
Maybe something like that. Although it is a hard transition for an organization to make, to go from a dominant, charismatic co-founder like Wes and become its own thing. I used to, we did our first, I was chief strategy officer when we created our first strategic vision document, kind of it was a 3-year process with staff and board. And this was all when Fred was president. And I was like, when Wes was going to retire, I was like, here's the thing. The strategy of the Land Institute is Wes Jackson. And it was like, he has his finger on this thing and he's going to retire and let go. And we don't know what that thing is going to become. And so I would say that since he retired in 2016, it's been becoming. And I think the rebrand is a great kind of moment of officially transitioning into sort of what the post Wes Jackson putting his finger on it all is for the organization. But still, we all have our finger on a lot of what Wes told us to put our finger on. So a lot of that has stayed, and I think will.
For the Kansans that maybe don't know about the Land Institute, or maybe just they've heard of it and now they're understanding better. Like, what is the significance of the Land Institute being here and not someplace else?
I love it. I mean, I think it is a thing to celebrate that this ragtag group of, academic defectors, came to the banks of the Smoky Hill River off of Waterwell Road and started this agricultural revolution in the breadbasket of the United States, in a place that is it makes perfect sense. And I think that Kansas and the Midwest should take credit, should be celebrating that this transformative idea was born here and is going to stay here too. Continues to find grounding in this place, and that 95 researchers or 200 plus researchers all over the globe want to come here, and we have visitors on a sometimes monthly basis, sometimes weekly basis, from China, from Ukraine, from all over the world who are here in Little Salina, Kansas, to see this research institute that isn't that glamorous compared to the big biotech or bioscience institutions, even in the region. But we have made, I think, have the potential to make a huge change based out of this little seed that was planted on the Smoky Hill River. So I think that's pretty cool.
Lovely. I love the way you said that. I have to tell a brief story. A year or two ago, my wife and I were flying into Salina late at night. It was snowing outside, and we landed and we got off the plane, and there was Lee DeHaan, Dr. Lee DeHaan, like in the luggage area or whatever. And so I walked up to Lee because his daughter Alicia works for us.
Yeah.
And so I greeted him and said, "What are you doing here in night?" And he's like, "Well, we have a researcher coming in from, I think, somewhere in Europe."
Yeah.
And it just occurred to me, like, and I think he said this was their first time in the United States.
Yeah.
It's like, what a way to find yourself in the United States.
In this tiny airport in Salina, Kansas, in the
in
dark.
the snow. and yeah, I can only imagine what the experiences of the people are that come and visit.
Yeah.
And see, both what they came to see, what's going on at the Land Institute, but also how the Land Institute sits in this region and what this region is all about.
Well, and I love that also what the story that you told also illustrates that culture. Here you have Lee DeHaan, who is the world's expert on de novo domestication of perennial grains, Kernza specifically, arguably the only one on the planet with as much tenure as he has in breeding Kernza, passing that on to other universities and folks. And what is he doing? He is at the airport picking up the visitor himself, probably in his personal car.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think that is, it's just, there's something very human and real about the Land Institute. And I think it comes through in the culture and stories like that. But then it's also this global, it's like a secretly global thing, a low key global initiative.
So probably a question you've been asked a lot lately. You're celebrating 50 years. What do you see or hope for the next 50?
I think that this place, the Land Institute, and our community partners in Salina can continue to intensify the regional sort of hubness and place-basedness of this idea of a perennial future for agriculture here. And I think that what I want to see in the next 50 years is that there are equally resilient, sort of local food-based communities with researchers embedded within them, with farmers and indigenous knowledge, and all of these diverse stakeholders for the future engaged in a bunch of other places all over the globe. So you have you don't take Salina and put it somewhere else, but you give Uganda the tools that they need to generate the same sort of key ingredients in their way for this perennial future in their agriculture. And so I think the way that we get there is we have to transition communities and sort of root them in place. We have to transition the global academic and research infrastructure that is working on agriculture. And there's a lot of it. Billions and billions of dollars are spent tweaking annual agriculture, and more of that should be spent invested in perennial agriculture. And then the communities, then it becomes like a feedback loop. We have the researchers creating it. We have the farmers and the communities engaging in that process. And ultimately, no matter what happens globally in the next 50 years, we can be assured that there are some of these kind of deeply rooted, resilient places with these perennial seeds ready to sort of create the future, seed the future.
It strikes me that what you just described is just as much about the people as it is about the plants.
It is, it's so funny. This is going to be a longer story. You can cut it if you want. But I just started reading out loud to my kid, the Unstoppable Us. It is the kids' version by Harari of Sapiens. You've probably heard of this.
Him, yeah.
The book Sapiens. Well, they created a 2-part series that's like a kid's book. It's like it has a lot of graphics in it, pictures and stuff, and it has sort of smaller chapters. And the second book starts with the beginnings of agriculture. And we kind of got off on a bad foot with agriculture. I mean, it really, my 10-year-old is like, oh yeah, it's way better to be a hunter-gatherer than to do this agriculture stuff. Where was I? What was the question that you asked?
I was saying it's more about people than plants.
Oh yeah, people. But just how, when you go back 10,000 years to the beginning of agriculture, it is a human endeavor. Like agriculture wouldn't exist if it weren't for people. And then in turn, it has impacted us. It has changed us. It has ingrained our societies in the way that they're ingrained. It has, in this book, it led to surplus, it led to war, the sort of permanence of agriculture led to fighting over land. There's all these like kind of more colonial implications of agriculture. But I just think it is about the people because it has been from the beginning. The point of agriculture is to feed us. So any solution we come up with has to be rooted in the people who are going to, like, the plants are stewarded by the people and the people steward the plants.
So not to make it all about Kansas, but like that does elevate. I mean, it is
Kansan.
But that elevates the importance of a state like Kansas,
Yeah.
who has, we've talked about the inferiority complex. And
really? Of Kansas?
Yeah, we have a tendency to look down on our state, but important work is being done here. Both the current agriculture and the agriculture of the future. Yeah.
I agree. Well, not irrelevant. Although we are flatter than a pancake.
We have mixed feelings about that.
Did you hear the NPR piece?
No.
Please enlighten us.
So this was probably a couple of years ago, but they did an NPR piece on, is Kansas flatter than a pancake? And they took a pancake.
Which I already have problems with this because there's different ways to make a pancake.
It's true. and they like mapped it. They scaled it to the size of Kansas, or they took Kansas and they scaled it to the size of a pancake. And they determined that when you just stretch a pancake or compress Kansas into a pancake size, Kansas is in fact flatter than a pancake.
And we should be darn proud of it.
And why not? You can see it has beautiful sunsets. You can see into the next state.
So many questions about that whole scenario.
Well, it wasn't my study, so.
Well, I think you need to redo the study. I think that needs to be a side project for the Land Institute.
What's wrong with being flat?
There's nothing wrong with it, but the whole thing is when people go through Kansas, and that's the problem, they're going through it and on the interstate, and they always say Kansas is so flat. But if you really get off the beaten path, there are a lot of hills. There are the Flint Hills. There are the Smoky Hills. There's all that thing. So, but anyway.
And just because it's flat doesn't mean there's not something special about it.
That's true. It's okay to be flat. Maybe I just need to accept that.
My father always talks about my parents are from here, obviously, and they also like to go to the ocean.
Oh, yeah.
And he likes to sit and look at the ocean, but he also likes to sit and look at the prairie. And he thinks of them very similarly. So most of what the prairie has to offer is underground, just like most of what the ocean has to offer is under the surface. And so there's so much that you don't see. There's a mystery of the prairie that can be explored, much like the ocean.
We've had several guests on that I should have asked this of, but you're even better. There's a picture right behind you that was taken by Jim Richardson, another guest. It's just such a powerful demonstration of like what is under the surface. Could you just talk about that?
I was just confirming because he took pictures of a lot of different plants, but that is Kernza.
And this is not life size.
No, this is not life size. Yeah,
smaller than it actually is.
They are beautiful, and the roots image. So what you see here is a plant. You see the productive part on top, and you see this very deep, pervasive, persistent root system that is underground. And it's even cooler when you see the different species, because some of the species on the prairie have these big tap roots, and then some of them have more fine roots, like this Kernza, like big blue stem or other prairie grasses. And they each serve their own function. And what you don't see here is the millions of microorganisms that hold that all together. And so there's more biodiversity potentially below ground than there is above ground. And we know much less about it than we do about above ground biodiversity. So it is an ecosystem all of its own. But yes, those roots are very powerful. I think as humans, we all want to like come home to our roots, especially in 2025. It feels like, oh man, if you've got nothing else going on, just go like take your shoes off and walk in some grass and just
reconnect.
And just remember that there is this whole infrastructure that has developed over billions of years on this planet without any human having anything to do with it. And it is so intelligent and so grounded, and it will survive. And it can teach us how to survive and thrive too, I think.
Is there anything that you want to give shout out to for the Land Institute? Anything we should know? Any news?
Shout out to the Land Institute. Come and see us. We actually, I think, just stopped our tours for the season, but typically Friday mornings at 10:30 during the like spring and summer months, we give tours. They're open to the public. We suggest that you register and come out and see us. We will be hosting Prairie Festival. So Prairie Festival was typically our annual sort of celebration of the prairie and prairie folk out at the Land Institute grounds. And we are having that again after a 3-year hiatus in 2026. And it's going to be a big 50th anniversary celebration.
Wow.
So that's September 25th through the 27th
of 2026.
Of 2026.
That's
and
great.
yeah, it's pretty close. I mean, we're starting to plan for it.
Yeah.
So getting excited and just go be one with nature, I think. And shout out clearly, if it didn't come through already, shout out to the team at the Land Institute. They are amazing, passionate people who
We'll pick you up at the airport in the dark and in the snow.
Yes, and they welcome. We know we have a couple of people who just moved to town. We have a Turkish person who came with his family to be our director of natural science research. Oh. We have another director of our crop stewardship program who just moved here from the DC area. And our community just welcomes them. They host dinners. They help each other find furniture. It is not unlike them to be seen hauling things around for each other. So it becomes kind of an instant community, which is very cool. So shout out to the people of the Land Institute for sure.
Every person I've met at the Institute is just such an interesting person. And I mean that in the best way.
In the best way.
They're
all very unique. It's not like you copied and pasted a personality.
Yeah. I know that I've heard this from a couple of people. Is one of my favorites is people who are like, I love working at the Land Institute because I can just be myself.
Yeah.
So you don't have to pretend, I guess, when you're at the Land Institute.
Want to spread your organization's message across Kansas? Consider becoming a sponsor. Ask a Kansan has a unique focus on Kansas and its people. By sponsoring our podcast, your organization can reach people from Canarado to Kansas City, Wichita to Washington, and all the great places in between. We have a variety of sponsorship packages available to fit your budget and needs. For more information, visit askakansan.com/sponsorships or call us at 785-571-9507. Thanks for joining us for that conversation with Rachel.
Yeah, it was. I've been around Rachel on a few shoots and stuff, but it was fun to actually have a chance to chat with her.
Yeah, it's the same. Like, I've always known Rachel from like an arm's length of like, we've worked with her team, we've worked with the Land Institute a lot. So, but yeah, she's so succinct when she talks. You kind of, there's a couple of times where I just got so into what she was saying, I forgot that I was supposed to ask a question. And again, I love people who just exude passion, and she's one of those people. And the Land Institute, just in general, are just those people, and I think that's why I love working with them so much.
Mm-hmm. It has been a joy working with the Land Institute and getting to know some of the folks out there. They're, like we said in the interview, they're really interesting. One of the things that she kind of highlighted when we were talking a little bit about Lee was that the work that they're doing is higher profile than most people realize. And somebody like Wes Jackson, who, maybe in the ag sphere and around Salina, people may know that name, but it's entirely possible in 100 years that name might have more significance than it does today. And so it's really exciting to be around them and what they're doing. Yeah. So with that, are you ready for another segment of Where in the Rectangle?
I am.
Wonderful.
I'm ready.
This is our segment where we ask Sydney to try to pin the location of some of the more interesting things that can be found in Kansas. And today, we're looking at a mural.
That's
but
a
not
mural?
just any mural. Yeah, you can already tell there's something different about it. This is the whole wall mural, and it has the distinction of being the longest sculpted brick mural in the United States. Yes, this means that each brick in this 140-foot long, 15 to 20 foot high wall was carved to create this image.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, the pictures are like, when you drive by on the road that we'll talk about after bet, when I reveal where this is, it doesn't leave as much of an impression as when you get up close to it.
Yeah.
So just, there you can see the whole
wild.
Wall. How many bricks do you think that took?
Oh, how many?
Yep.
Oh no. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know. I don't do math. I'm gonna go 1,000. I don't know.
You're in the neighborhood. 6,400 bricks were donated by.
I was in the neighborhood. I wasn't even in the county.
by Cloud Ceramics. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So my next question is, how long do you think it took artist Catherine Maggle, I apologize if I messed up that name, her assistant Mara, and their team of 3 local masons to complete the mural?
Oh, how long? I'm gonna go a year.
Not bad. Okay, so this is a bit of a complex answer.
Okay.
They started designing and actually carving the bricks in February 2007. The last brick was carved on April 18th, 2008, about 14 months later.
Okay.
But they weren't actually able to start building it until a year after that. So they carved the bricks first.
So they carved the bricks, laid them all out, made sure, and then
a year later they came back and started laying them out. And it took them about 6 weeks to build the whole wall. And the whole story here is there used to be a building next to the building that this wall is on, and they tore that building down and the wall was all screwed up. And so they needed something different. And somebody had this idea of doing a brick mural. So my final question, Sydney, is where in the rectangle?
Where in the rectangle? Okay, so I have railroad tracks. I've got
if you need any hints,
miners. I think I saw a guy with a little light. I've got hunters gatherers. I got 3 kids that look terrified. What is that guy doing? That looks like he's signing up for something he doesn't want to be signed up for. Oh gosh, I'm gonna go somewhere up north for some reason, I think.
Okay.
I gotta pull up my county list.
Yeah, here, do you want me to grab the...
Yeah, grab our rectangle. Republic, maybe?
Okay. Is that your final answer?
Yeah, Republic County.
Not a terrible guess. The answer is Cloud County. This is just south of Republic, so just one county north. Okay. And this is in Concordia, as you can see in this final picture.
Oh, I did not know that was in Concordia.
Yeah, if you are, have you driven through Concordia?
Yeah, not lately.
Okay. Do you know how there's like an overpass?
Yeah.
This is right before the overpass on the left.
Oh.
If you're heading north.
Interesting.
So,
okay.
Yeah. Concordia is a really awesome place. They have a lot going on, and Cloud County in general as well. The mural is called Cloud Anthologies, and that was going to be one of my hints to you is Cloud, because Cloud County. Just to give a little bit more of a bump to our Curious Kansan thing, I wanted to share one of my favorite fictional Kansans, which is Ted Lasso. He once quoted the poet Walt Whitman by saying, "Be curious, not judgmental." Mm-hmm. And I think that's a great way to approach Kansas. At first glance, Kansas can be discounted and ignored, underestimated and misunderstood, and driven by and flown over, as we said earlier. Mm-hmm. But curious Kansans know that off of every exit of the interstate lies opportunities for exploration, connection, and discovery. And there's a rich and wonderful state out here waiting for you to find it. So listening to this podcast is one way to be curious about the Sunflower State. And another is to subscribe to our Curious Kansan newsletter by visiting askakansan.com. And for any of my fellow Ted Lasso fans out there, this is barbecue sauce. I know that makes no sense if you don't. But I'm referencing a specific scene.
A very specific, yes. Mm-hmm.
It's a great scene, too. And that brings us to the end of another episode of Ask Kansan.
Mm-hmm. Make sure to follow us, share this with one other person. Start going through our archive of episodes if you haven't yet. A lot of very interesting conversation. If you like this episode, check out James Bowden's episode. It's kind of around the same type of content. But yeah, feel free to check us out.
And if you haven't been to the website before, there's a lot of great information about us and about what we do and other opportunities to connect with it. So yeah, thanks for tuning in.
Bye.